The year is 2025, and the most important agreement in modern economic history just expired. And if you are not spending your money regularly, you're about to watch your savings, your paycheck, and your entire standard of living collapse in real time. For 50 years, every barrel of oil sold on Earth was priced in US dollars. Every country needed dollars to buy this valuable energy. That created an artificial demand for American currency that made the United States the most powerful nation on Earth. Even though we produce almost nothing and owe everyone everything on credit. But that system just ended, and the media outlets are not showing you this. Our politicians are not warning you. Because if you knew what was actually happening, you'd understand that the America you grew up in is already gone. The Petrodollar agreement dies in 2025. And when it dies, the dollar's dominance over the world dies with it. Most people won't see this. But smart artificial money has already taken its place. They are in gold, farmland, and foreign assets. They understand what every empire that debased its currency learned the hard way. The money you are holding is only worth what other people believe it's worth, and that belief is running out right now. Let me tell you a story about how we got here. Because this didn't start in 2025. It started in 1971. On August 15, 1971, Richard Nixon appeared on television and told the world that the United States was temporarily closing the gold window. Translation: the dollar is no longer backed by gold. It's just paper and a promise. And the Nixon administration knew that was a problem, because if the dollar is just paper, why would anyone accept it? Why would foreign governments hold dollars in their reserves? Why would global trade be conducted in a currency backed by nothing? The answer came after 3 years. In 1974, Secretary of State Henry Kissinger made a deal with Saudi Arabia. A simple deal, a magnificent deal, a bad deal. Here is how it worked. Saudi Arabia, the world's largest oil exporter, would agree to price all of its oil exclusively in US dollars. No euro, no yen, no gold, only dollars. And in exchange, the United States would provide military protection to the Saudi regime, sell them weapons, and guarantee their security against regional threats like Iran and Iraq. But here's the key point. This agreement wasn't just with Saudi Arabia. Through OPEC, the deal extended to nearly every major oil-producing nation on Earth. Venezuela, Nigeria, UAE, Kuwait, all of them. Dollars for oil, oil for dollars. This created something unprecedented in history. Artificial demand for U.S. currency. Because if you are Japan and you need to import oil, you first need to buy dollars. If you are Germany and you need to fuel your economy, you need dollars. If you are China and you are building factories, you first need dollars. This meant the United States could print unlimited amounts of money, run massive trade deficits, rack up trillions in debt, and never face consequences because the world needed dollars to function. We exported inflation, we imported goods, and even the public paid the price for everyone. The petrodollar system wasn't just an agreement, it was the foundation of American power, more important than the military and technology, because controlling global currency meant controlling global trade, and controlling global trade meant controlling everything. For 50 years, this system worked. The dollar remained the world's reserve currency, not because of gold backing or economic strength, but because of oil. Every country held dollars in reserve. Every central bank bought U.S. Treasury bonds, and America was able to borrow unlimited amounts at artificially low interest rates because the world needed a safe place to park its dollars. But here's what nobody told you. That agreement had an expiration date, and we just hit it. In 2023, Saudi Arabia quietly announced they would not renew the petrodollar agreement. It wasn't on the headlines. Most Americans have no idea such a thing even happened. But in financial circles, in central banks, in the meetings that truly matter, everyone knows the foundation has suddenly cracked. And once a currency system built on confidence starts to crack, the collapse accelerates quickly. Saudi Arabia is not stupid. They have been preparing for this for years. They are diversifying, building relationships with China, Russia, and India. In 2023, they joined BRICS, the economic alliance specifically designed to challenge dollar dominance. They are now accepting yuan for oil sales to China. They are discussing rupees for sales to India. They are even talking about pricing oil in a basket of currencies or returning to gold-backed settlements. Every move is reduce dependence on the dollar, and they are not alone. You will understand better when I give you the numbers, because what is happening is very surprising. In 2000, approximately 73% of global foreign exchange reserves were held in US dollars. By 2020, this rate dropped to 59%, and in 2024, below 55%. This might seem like nothing to worry about, but in the world of reserve currencies, this is a free fall. Central banks are diversifying away from the dollar at the fastest pace since World War II. China has reduced its U.S. Treasury holdings by over $300 billion since 2021. Russia dumped almost all of its dollar reserves after the 2014 sanctions, and has instead been stockpiling gold. India is trading in rupees and bypassing the dollar entirely. Brazil and Argentina are settling trade in their own currencies. Even France, a supposed ally, is reducing dollar exposure. The world is realizing what should have always been obvious. The emperor is naked. The dollar is backed by nothing except the promise that other people will keep accepting it. And when that promise breaks, its value evaporates. Here is where it gets personal. Because this is not just about geopolitics or central banks. This is about your paycheck, your savings, your ability to buy food next year. The dollar's strength is not about how hard you work or how productive the American economy is. It's about the artificial demand created by the petrodollar system. When that demand disappears, the supply of dollars doesn't change. We printed trillions. But if the world no longer needs dollars, all those dollars will return home. This is called inflation. However, this will not be the 6% or 8% inflation you've been dealing with. It will be the kind of inflation that destroys middle-class savings in months. Think about it. For 50 years, the world absorbed our inflation. We printed money and they held it in reserves or bought our bonds. Now they are selling. They are diversifying. They are getting out. And when those dollars come back, when foreign central banks dump treasury bonds, when trade shifts to other currencies, the purchasing power of your dollar collapses, import prices explode, gas, electronics, clothing, medicine, everything produced outside of America, meaning almost everything, becomes unaffordable. Your savings lose value faster than you can spend them. And here is the part that should terrify you. The government cannot stop it. The Federal Reserve talks about controlling inflation, but its tools are useless when the problem is the loss of reserve currency status. They can raise interest rates, of course, but that will crash the economy and make the debt unsustainable. They can print more money, but that accelerates inflation and drives more countries away from the dollar. There is no good option. It is checkmate. And those in power know it. That's why they are not talking about it. Because if the public understood what is happening, panic would accelerate the collapse. It is better to keep everyone calm, keep everyone ignorant, and let the disaster unfold slowly enough that most people don't connect the dots until it's too late. But the smart money has already connected them. Let me tell you what they are doing, because this is how you know it's real. When the richest, most informed people on earth change their behavior, pay attention. Billionaires are buying farmland. Bill Gates now owns more farmland than anyone in America. Not because he wants to be a farmer, because land produces food and food has value regardless of what happens to paper currency. Ray Dalio, one of the world's most successful hedge fund managers, has been screaming about dollar collapse for years. He has allocated significant portions of his fund to gold and foreign currencies. Warren Buffett, historically a dollar bull, has been diversifying Berkshire Hathaway's holdings into foreign stocks and commodities. Central banks, the institutions that actually manage currency, are buying gold at record levels. Russia, China, India, Turkey, Poland, all of them are loading up on physical gold and reducing dollar reserves. In 2023 alone, central banks purchased over 1,000 tons of gold. That's the most in decades. Why? Because they know the dollar's reserve status is ending. And when it does, hard assets like gold retain value while paper currencies collapse. Even corporations are hedging. Tesla, MicroStrategy, and other major companies have put portions of their cash reserves into Bitcoin and other alternatives, not because they believe in crypto ideology, but because they don't trust the dollar long term. And these are not conspiracy theorists or doomers. These are the most successful, best-informed financial actors on Earth. They are voting with their wallets, and they are voting against the dollar. Meanwhile, your financial advisor probably still tells you to keep most of your money in dollar-denominated bonds and index funds. They are either ignorant or lying. Either way, you are the one who loses. Let's talk about what happens next, because the end of the petrodollar is not the final collapse. It is the first domino. Here is the cascade. First, oil-producing nations start accepting other currencies. That is already happening. China pays for Saudi oil in yuan. India uses rupees. This reduces global dollar demand. Second, countries holding massive dollar reserves start selling. They do not want to be the last one holding the bag. Russia already did this. China is doing it slowly. Others will follow. When they sell, treasury bond prices fall and interest rates spike. Third, rising interest rates make U.S. government debt unsustainable. We are already at $36 trillion in national debt. Interest payments alone are approaching $1 trillion per year. If rates keep rising, that number doubles or triples. At some point, the only option is to print money to pay the debt. Fourth, printing money to pay debt accelerates inflation. Prices rise. People demand higher wages. Companies raise prices more. The spiral begins. Fifth, inflation destroys confidence in the currency. People start looking for alternatives. Some turn to foreign currencies. Some turn to gold. Some turn to crypto. The flight from the dollar accelerates. And here is the nightmare scenario. A currency crisis triggers a debt crisis, which triggers a banking crisis, which triggers a political crisis. This is not one problem, it is systemic failure. When people cannot afford food, they riot. When governments cannot pay salaries, they collapse. When banks cannot honor withdrawals, they close. The entire social contract depends on economic stability, and that stability rests on currency confidence. And we are watching that confidence break in real time. Look at the signs. Food prices up 25% since 2020. Energy costs spiking. Housing unaffordable for an entire generation. Wages not keeping up. Credit card debt at record highs. These are not separate issues. They are symptoms of monetary collapse. The dollar is dying. And everything priced in dollars is reflecting that death. Let me give you historical context because this has happened before. Every global reserve currency eventually fails. The Spanish silver dollar dominated global trade in the 1600s. It collapsed. The Dutch guilder was the reserve currency of the 1700s. It collapsed. The British pound sterling ruled the 1800s and early 1900s. It collapsed. After World War II, Britain was so broke they couldn't even afford to maintain their empire. The pound went from global dominance to regional currency in 2 decades. The dollar has been the reserve since 1944. That's 80 years. That's actually longer than most reserve currencies last. And every single one ended the same way. Overextension, endless wars, massive debt, currency debasement, and finally loss of confidence. We are watching the exact same pattern play out. The wars in Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, the military bases in 150 countries, the trillion-dollar defense budgets while infrastructure crumbles at home, the $36 trillion debt that can never be repaid, the money printing to cover deficits. Every symptom is there. The diagnosis is clear: terminal decline. But here's what makes 2025 different from past reserve currency transitions. In the past, when one currency declined, another replaced it smoothly. The guilder gave way to the pound. The pound gave way to the dollar. There was continuity. This time there is no clear successor. The euro is even more of a disaster than the dollar. China's yuan is controlled by an authoritarian government that manipulates everything. No one trusts it. Bitcoin and crypto are too volatile and not scalable for global trade. Gold cannot be used for daily transactions in a digital economy. We are heading into a world where there is no dominant reserve currency. That is called a multipolar currency system. And it is chaotic. Exchange rates swing wildly. Trade becomes more expensive. Trust breaks down. Countries start demanding payment in their own currency or in barter arrangements. Global trade shrinks. Supply chains fragment. This is not a smooth transition. It is a breakdown, and the speed will shock people. Currency crises do not unfold over decades. They accelerate. Look at recent examples. Venezuela went from stable to hyperinflation in 5 years. Turkey's lira lost 80% of its value in a decade. Argentina has collapsed so many times they've stopped counting. These are not fringe economies. Turkey is a G20 nation, and they couldn't stop currency death once it started. America is. Bigger. Yes, we have more resources, more military power, more institutional strength, but we also have more debt, more dependence on imports, and a population completely unprepared for hardship. When the crisis hits here, it won't be a slow decline. It will be a stampede. Everyone will try to get out of dollars at once, and there won't be enough exits. The government will try to stop it. They will impose capital controls, make it illegal to move money overseas. They will force retirement accounts to buy treasury bonds. They will ban gold ownership like they did in 1933. They will create a digital dollar that they can track and control. Every transaction monitored, every purchase approved or denied. This is not paranoia. This is what every failing government does when their currency collapses. They lock down. They confiscate. They control. Because letting people escape means admitting failure, and governments never admit failure until it's too late. By the time they acknowledge the problem, your money will already be trapped. Your 401k will already be decimated. Your savings will already be worthless. And they will tell you it's for your own good, for stability, for security, for the greater good. But it is really just buying time while the ship sinks. So what do? First, understand that the bias of normality will destroy you. The belief that things will go back to normal, that the government will fix it, that someone else will save you. That belief is poison. This is not fixable. The math doesn't work. The debt cannot be repaid. The system is terminal. Accept that. Second, diversify out of purely dollar-denominated assets. I am not giving financial advice, but historically people survive currency collapse by holding assets that retain value. Real estate, commodities, foreign currency, precious metals, productive assets like businesses or farmland, things that have value regardless of what paper money does. Third, reduce debt and increase flexibility. When currency collapses, debtors can win if the debt gets inflated away, but only if they can survive the chaos in between. If you lose your job or cannot access credit, debt becomes a noose. The safest position is minimal debt, maximum flexibility, and portable skills. Fourth, build networks and community. When systems fail, people survive by cooperating. Your neighbors, your family, your local community. These relationships matter more than any investment. Fifth, educate yourself. Everything I am telling you can be verified. The petrodollar history, the reserve currency patterns, the current dollarization trend, it is all public information. Most people just aren't looking. The information is there. The warnings are clear. Whether you act on them determines which side of the crisis you end up on. The petrodollar system was always a temporary arrangement built on power and convenience, not sound economics. For 50 years it gave America privileges no nation in history ever had. We got to print money and have the world accept it as valuable. We got to run deficits without consequences. We got to maintain an empire on borrowed money and borrowed time. But every empire ends. Every currency fails. And the patterns are always the same. We are not facing some unprecedented crisis. We are facing the same crisis that destroyed Rome, Spain, Britain, and every other power that debased its currency and believed the party would never end. The script is written. We are just watching it play out in real time. The petrodollar dies in 2025. The dollar's global dominance dies with it. And most Americans will be blindsided because no one in power wants to admit what is happening. But you know now, you've seen the pattern. You understand the timeline. The question is not whether this happens. It is whether you prepare before it's too late. History shows us that currency collapse is one of the most predictable disasters in economics. It happens the same way every time. Overextension, debt, money printing, loss of confidence, collapse. The actors change, the technology changes, but the sequence is identical. The Roman denarius, the Spanish real, the French assignat, the German papermark, the British pound. Every single one followed the same path. And the dollar is no different. It is not special. It is not exempt. It is just next in line. Those who see this coming have a chance. Those who ignore it will learn the same lesson millions learned before them. Paper money dies. Hard assets survive. And the answers to what is happening next are not hiding in some uncertain future. They are written in the past, in every empire that made the same mistakes we are making now. History does not predict the exact date or the precise mechanism, but it tells you the outcome with absolute certainty. The dollar's reign is ending, not because of bad luck or unforeseen circumstances, but because of mathematical inevitability and historical patterns that have repeated for thousands of years. The question was never if. It was always when, and the answer is now. The petrodollar just died. The foundation of the kingdom just cracked. And everything built on that kingdom is starting to collapse. Are you ready? Because whether you're ready or not, what is coming is coming. If this opened your eyes, hit subscribe. The answers are not hiding in the future. They are written in the past, and I will show you where to look.